Hello, good evening, and welcome to another installment of Mystery Unsolved. I am, of course, your host, Justin Bienvenu, and welcome to Season 3, Trace of Mystery Unsolved. You may remember last week we did the special edition and ended Season 2 with Zodiac Killer, and we're going to be starting Season 3 fresh with another topic just as good. And I actually picked a lot of good topics for this season, so stay tuned for like a lot of really good episodes, especially tonight, because tonight we are going to Skinwalker Ranch. That's right. So maybe bring the tinfoil hats? I don't know. All right. So, you know the deal. I am by no means a professional. If you see me looking down, it's because my papers are here. I've, I'm getting easy. I'm trying to get easy access, make it easier for myself as we go along. Also, at any time, if you see my eyes not revert to the camera or because it's looking at the screen, it's because I'm looking at myself and I don't realize that I should be looking into the camera. So, without any further ado, let us go to Skinwalker Ranch. All right. So, the last few episodes, I've kind of drifted away from my whole like five theories part. In this case, it's no different. I'm pretty much giving you facts. I ain't giving you theories. Well, then why is it mystery unsolved if you're giving me facts? Well, there's still plenty of mystery. There's plenty of unsolved at these places, especially Skinwalker Ranch. So I'll try to not touch my nose, but I can't help if it's itchy. Anyways, let us get into Skinwalker Ranch, shall we? So what is Skinwalker Ranch? It is a property southeast of Ballard, Utah. So if anybody ever asks you, well, what's in Utah? There's nothing in Utah. Salt Lake City and the Jazz. You can just kindly point out to them, Skinwalker Ranch, my friend. Skinwalker Ranch. The name comes from the Skinwalker of Navajo legend concerning vengeful shaman. There was ever a reason to nickname something that. And also, let's just get this out of the way because I totally forgot. Right here, Skinwalkers by Tony Hillerman. It's been sitting there for about 3 years. Still haven't read that puppy, but maybe I will now. All right. It's said to be a site where paranormal and UFO activity takes place. Ah, hence the mystery unsolved part. Hmm? And last but not least, it is currently owned by Brandon Fugel. Now, why is this important? Well, you'll find that out later on down the road. But let's cut into the good stuff. Let's cut to the good stuff, shall we? Paranormal and UFO claims. Now, if anybody's ever heard of Skinwalker Ranch, then you would know that part of the reason you know about it and part of the reason Skinwalker Ranch is famous is because of the paranormal and UFO claims. It is said to be a site where paranormal and UFO activity takes place. I kind of skipped over that between the ownership and the Navajo legend part. But yeah, it's said to be a site where paranormal and UFO activity takes place. And now we're actually going to go into some of these claims. And boy, is it a doozy of information. It's been dubbed the UFO Ranch due to all the claims of seeing UFOs and other strange and odd events over the last 50 years. So this isn't a place that just recently decided, hey, we're going to let you know who we are by paranormal events and UFO sightings. No, no, no. This has been going on at this ranch for over 50 years. Colm Kelleher and George Knapp, who wrote a book on Skinwalker Ranch, claimed that they saw and investigated around 100 incidents that include vanishing and mutilated cattle, UFO sightings, beings with red eyes that were unharmed when shot with bullets, invisible objects with destructive magnetic fields. So I'll let you process all that for a little bit while I break it down into, you know, easier information here. So Colin Kelleher and George Knapp co-wrote the book with Colin Kelleher. It was based off of Skinwalker Ranch. They went to the ranch, and based off of all the information they gathered, all the times that they've saw and investigated around 100 incidents and vanishing and mutilated cattle. Now, I'm not sure about the vanishing part, but mutilated, I can vouch for that because um I actually watched The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, which I will get to at the very end. But there's one of the episodes where this cow or another animal, I believe it's a llama, and the poor thing just gets mutilated. Like the thing gets cut and then it gets mutilated, and you have no idea why. But yeah, so I'll get to that at the end. UFO sightings. Naturally, this is a, this is probably it's. I would say the paranormal UFO rate is probably 50-50. Although maybe I'd go 60-40 with the UFO being the 60%, because a lot of people, excuse me, claim to see UFO sightings on Skinwalker Ranch. And they probably should because it's a very weird place. It gives off very weird waves, um, very strange currencies, frequencies, just all that. And it's a lot of it's attributed to what people think to be UFOs. Beings with red eyes unharmed when shot with bullets. So I use beings just because, like it said, it was like a creature or something like that. But I put beings because it could be literally anything. It could be paranormal. It could be otherworldly, like an alien. But when shot at, the thing's unfazed. I believe there was one story that I had heard from one of the guys on the show. Again, I'll get to the show at the very end because that's the best part. And he and at least another guy claimed the same thing, that they looked up and there was this giant being, and of course they're just firing round after round into this thing, and it's totally unfazed. Now, of course, that seems like a total far-fetched legend story, but multiple people have claimed that this happened. So, and then last, the invisible objects with destructive magnetic fields. Now, this one again, we'll I'll cover all the basis of this at the end because this is what they also do on Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. But invisible objects, I'm not so sure about, but there's definitely a lot of magnetic frequencies and fields at Skinwalker Ranch, and they have no idea why. See, that's the baffling part. That's what makes it a mystery because they investigate it, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to find something, and they usually do. But they don't know where it's coming from or why. Well, they narrow it down to where it's coming from, but then they're asking themselves, well, why is this happening? It's in the middle of the sky. It's like 50 feet above the middle of the field. What's in the middle of a field? Above a field? Nothing. It's just air. Except it isn't air. It's tainted air because there's magnetic fields and frequencies that are unexplained, unidentified, and they're flying, but they're not objects. UF, UFIOs, unidentified invisible objects. Oh, look at that. Did I just invent something? Did I just invent something right now? All right, back to our episode here. Cattle mutilations have been a part of the folklore of the surrounding area for decades. So remember I had said in the beginning, one of the things that they mentioned was vanishing and mutilated cattle. And this is actually in an episode of The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. But this actually dates back probably as much as 50 years, just like you know, as many times as many claims that people are seeing on this ranch. One of them is always cattle mutilations, which is kind of like messed up. Just like, just imagine going on a property and just seeing a bunch of random dead cows just mutilated and having no idea why. Like, the whole like cliche of like the UFO abducting the cow. It's like that, but like 50 times worse. Billionaire Robert Bigelow bought the property in 1996 for $200,000. Bigelow sold the property in 2016, 20 years later, for 4.5 million to Adamantium Holdings, which ended up being owned by Brandon Fugel, who now owns it now. So I wrote this down because the number just jumped out at me and made me do a double take. He bought the place for $200,000. 20 years later, I don't know, what did he like quadruple his money? 4.5 million he sold it to Brandon Fugel. I didn't write this down, but Robert Bigelow comes off to me as a very shady individual, at least in the sense of Skinwalker Ranch. He's he's like one of those corporate business billionaire guys. I don't know much about him from a business sense, but since I've watched The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, Robert Bigelow's referenced a lot, and from the information that I hear and gather, something tells me that Robert Bigelow probably witnessed a hell of a lot of shit in 20 years on Skinwalker Ranch, but probably didn't divulge half of it. I'm sure he's probably seen UFOs, little green men, weird radio magnetic frequencies, and probably just hasn't really shared any of the information. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. If you want to take something from this, I think Robert Bigelow is shady when it comes to Skinwalker Ranch. I've even I've I've even been quoted on Twitter when I watch the show and I tweet during the show, and people agree with me. Like every time his name comes up, I'm just like, why does this guy give off shady, weird vibes to me? All right, popular culture. Hence the reason we know about Skinwalker Ranch, right? All right, popular culture. It was featured on an episode of Lost Tapes in a fictional sense. It was episode 5 of the show Joe Rogan Questions Everything. I don't remember that show. It was a 2013 film called Skinwalker Ranch that was loosely based on the folklore of the ranch. Hunt for the Skinwalker was a 2018 documentary. It was covered on an episode of Portals to Hell. I believe that's the one with Jack Osborne and Katrina Wyman. It was featured in episode. It was excuse me. It was featured in season 2, episode 7 of the series Project Blue Book, which is another show that I watch on History Channel. I actually remember this episode quite fondly. Good episode, great show. It's mentioned in an episode of Ancient Aliens. I missed that episode, unfortunately. And last but not least, it is The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch is a show on the History Channel currently in its 2nd season. Actually, season 2 debuted a couple days ago, Tuesday. And I missed it, so I'm hoping to catch it on Hulu. But one of the main reasons I myself know about Skinwalker Ranch is because of the show, and they have a lot of interesting characters, to say the least. There's one guy he's on the show, but he's been on the ranch. He's a ranch hand. He's been there for like 20 years himself. I forgot to write his name down. He wears a black hat. He's very soft spoken, very southern. But he's actually one of the people that actually had something horrific happen to him on the property. Um, the back of his head, I believe he fell or something. He hit the back of his head, and the thing swelled up to the size of a grapefruit, the back of his head. And he went back. Doctors were like baffled. They have no idea how it happened. They don't know. I have no idea why it swelled up. And he always shares this story. And during one of the episodes of the first season, he actually has to leave the property because like that part in the back of his head is sensitive. And like how like some people feel like they can predict the weather if they have a bad knee. Like this, that's with him. Like except it's not the weather. It's just like he feels like something's off. So during one of the episodes, he felt sick, and he was told in the back of his head, and they let him leave. He was fine the next day, but like it was very bizarre, and it's always been bizarre to to try to understand why what happened to him and why it's like that. Uh, so basically, they brought in this guy, Travis Taylor, the show. searches Skinwalker Ranch, and there's a whole team, and they try to investigate to see if they can find anything on the premises on the land, and they found some pretty sketchy stuff. Like one of the things that I had mentioned earlier in the episode about like catching magnetic waves and fields and frequencies in the middle of a field. They did this. So one of the first things they did is the remember the old weather balloon that I mentioned in the Roswell episode? We're in the modern days now, and apparently you can use weather balloons for something other than the weather or covering up UFOs. Um, they used a weather balloon to see if they could pick anything up in the area. So they let it off in the field, and the crazy thing is, the weather balloon. Normally, weather balloons are supposed to stop in the air at some point, or even come back down, because basically they were controlling it. Something happened, and the weather balloon was never to be seen again. It just flew off, and it didn't come back down. And the weird thing was they couldn't even get readings out of it. That was the weird thing. Like they got like this weird reading, but then afterwards they couldn't pick anything up because the balloon had traveled so far that the distance made it so that they couldn't pick anything up. I just hit my notes. So that was a little bizarre. And then there's this I want to say a manhole cover, but like there's like this metal door to this like I don't know, there's some weird like contraption, like this door on the property. And Travis opens it up and he gets this weird feeling. So like first of all, why would you open a door on Skinwalker Ranch that's embedded to the ground? Which I will get to in a minute, actually, more about the ground. But yeah, he opens it up, he looks in, and he starts feeling dizzy and disoriented. And they tell him to just close the door, step back. What are you doing? Stop. One of the things that they can't do, at least they weren't able to do in the first season, is you can't dig on Skinwalker Ranch. You can't do it. This is one because the owner and his security personnel and other people on the property just don't think it's safe. I don't blame them. I mean, you could find metal, you could find like some ancient Indian Navajo, like that's what mainly people think, that there's a curse on the ranch. But it's also believed that if it's extraterrestrial or alien oriented, that if you dig into the ground, you don't know what might come out. You don't know what you're going to dig up. And I believe it was Travis that said he wanted to dig, and they were like furious. They were like, "You're not digging on the property." And he brought it up at least two more times, and again they were adamant, like, "You're not digging on this property." But I have heard, I did watch a little special last week, and I guess in season two they maybe, I think they convinced to do some dig. I think they convinced them and allow them to do some digging. I'm not sure though. It'd be kind of interesting. I kind of want to know what's under the ground. But yeah, so basically Skinwalker Ranch has a lot of weird stuff happening on it. And I totally buy it. I don't watch the show for nothing. I totally believe that there's something. Do I think it's alien? Maybe. Maybe because some of the whole like magnetic fields, like you can't the frequencies, you can't explain that. You can't I mean you could chalk it up to paranormal, but um the other thing I wanted to mention before I close this episode is there was one of the episodes of The Secret to Skinwalker Ranch that I mentioned in the beginning where they mutilated a cow. Like, well, they didn't mutilate the cow. Like this cow, they found the cow. They watched the cow on video. The cow's like randomly like walking in the field by itself, and then the camera goes like haywire. And then the next day when they show up on the ranch, the cow is like dead, and they don't know what happened to it. And all the other cows are often like a couple yards over, just like mooing away, and they don't know what happened to it. And the weird thing was there was like no like they weren't like outraged. I'm normally not outraged when I see an animal mutilated, but I don't know, this bothered me. And I remember the episode because me and this other girl that was tweeting, this girl that was tweeting during the episode, and we were both like so outraged that we actually tweeted to Brandon Fugel, the owner of Skinwalker Ranch, and we're like, "How are you like not upset by this?" And he said that they take it very seriously. They treat the animals with care, and I don't know, like I just felt to mention this because just to show you that like weird shit goes on at this ranch, and I actually tried to get some info from the owner himself, and for the most part, he seemed genuine, but at the same time, it was like, I don't know, it seemed like it was all for publicity. But you should definitely care about the animals that you have on the ranch first because it is a ranch first. Animals live on ranches. Hence, you should care about the animals on your ranch. You should care about the paranormal and UFO activity. Second, just throwing that out there. So, what do you think? What are your thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch? Do you think that there's paranormal or UFO activity? Do you think that Robert Bigelow is a shady individual? I didn't give you much to go on him, but just Google him, like if you can. Maybe you'll find some better information than I will. But are you intrigued? Would you step foot on Skinwalker Ranch? I would. Although what I told you what happened with Thomas Hedgerton, Worthington, something like that. I apologize. I should have had his name before I did this episode. But would you be afraid that you perhaps you know it's his experience? Has would that make you step foot on the ranch or would it not? I'd be a little hesitant at first, but I think I would. I mean, everybody else is all right, so I definitely would. Um, Last but not least, they actually do sort of treat this place like a little bit like Area 51 since Brandon bought it. Like there's gates and there's barbed wire, and if you think you can cross it, good luck, but you're probably not. Um, you could probably get past their head of security, but that's for another day. I won't get into that. But yeah, so this has been Mystery Unsolved Skinwalker Ranch Edition. I hope you enjoy this for those that are watching, and for those on the playback over on YouTube. I always love saying, you know the deal. Feel free to like the video and subscribe so you can get notifications and watch more of my Mystery Unsolved series. And tune in next week for another episode. I would love to tell you what the episode is, but unfortunately, that's on my tablet, which I'm currently using to film this, so I can't do it. So you'll just have to be surprised. So until next week,